This was reported on September 2, 2014, when a pipeline from eastern Slovakia to the western Ukrainian city of Uzhhorod was opened. Many of you know that Ukraine imports natural gas from Europe, not from Russia. Part of the natural gas exported from Russia to Europe is supplied to Ukraine from the European side.
This is a tremendous step forward. And Ukraine today can state and claim that we made this first step together with our Slovak friends and the EU Commission to diversify the energy supply and to decrease the energy dependence.
Russian supplies to Ukraine were stopped in June 2014. Of course, this is not because of the conflict in the Donbas region. While Ukraine's energy debt to Russia was growing, Russia's state-owned gas company, Gazprom, was negotiating a debt restructuring and price reduction, but negotiations were unsuccessful and supplies were stopped. This energy situation is still a problem for Russia's influence in Europe, but changes are beginning to take place in Ukraine between 2020 and 2021. We will discuss that again in our next video. Back to 2015.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
On September 27, 2015, Poroshenko visited New York to participate in the UN General Assembly. On that occasion, he met with this person. On this day, Poroshenko met with former U.S. President Bill Clinton at the Clinton Global Initiative 2015 annual meeting in New York prior to his speech at the United Nations.
But I have a very strong bias that a strong, independent, peaceful, secure Ukraine being a bridge between Russia and Europe is very important. I feel the same way about Turkey being a bridge between a positive Middle East and Europe in a world that works together instead of being torn apart. So I was delighted when then Mr. Poroshenko became the president of Ukraine, and I think he has tried heroically with great skill to deal with the challenges of his country. So I'm going to ask him two questions and give him all the time. The first question is, tell people here what you want every person to know about where you are now, what your major challenges are, and what kind of support you need.
First of all, thank you very much, Mr. President, for this unique opportunity to address for more than 1,000 people from the United States and all over the world about the very important for the global security and for the global peace and for the global democracy situation in Ukraine. I'm very appreciative, and I have an opportunity to participate previously in the Clinton Global Initiative in different places, starting from Hong Kong and different other places. But I think now after the annexation of the Crimea, after the aggression in east of Ukraine, we live in a complete different world. And I want to, if you're asking very short about the things what we need from you, from the world, the answer is very simple and consists of only two things. Point number one, we need transatlantic unity. We need a unity between US, Canada, European Union, Australia, Japan, the whole world. And point number two, we need a solidarity with Ukrainian people who are fighting for peace, democracy, not only for the sovereignty, not only for the territorial integrity, not only for the independence of our country. We're fighting for the freedom and democracy.
On the same day, Poroshenko took the stage late for his scheduled time at the UN General Assembly, general debate.
Today, Ukraine has to implement so much needed systemic reform while opposing Russian aggressor that try to undermine the democratic European development the Ukrainian people have chosen. As a result of Russia's treacherous annexation of the Ukrainian Crimea and the aggression in the Ukrainian Donbas region, thousands of the people have been killed. Critical infrastructure has been ruined. Ukraine lost about 1/5 of its economic potential. Russia's military action against Ukraine have also increased environmental and epidemiological threats, as well as the risk of the social exclusion. Chemical sites in the conflict area in the eastern part of Ukraine and in the adjacent territory represent in a particular danger.
As you can see, Poroshenko personally revealed the existence of a bioscience research facility in eastern Ukraine 7 years ago at the United Nations. Looking only at a series of Poroshenko's claims, one might think that Ukraine is being unilaterally invaded by Russia for doing nothing. Now Zelensky is no different. He may make more effective arguments than Poroshenko, but the substance is the same. But is it true? During Poroshenko's speech, Russia's ambassador to the UN, Churkin, left the room. The current foreign minister of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, had this to say about that in the Minsk II agreement. At the time he was ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary of Ukraine.
Mr. Kuleba, welcome to Viewpoint.
Thank you.
Well, over the weekend, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko addressed the UN summit, and during the summit, the Russian delegation walked out. Now, what kind of message did they send out?
Well, according to my information, only Ambassador Churkin, the head of the mission of Russia to the UN, left the conference hall, the hall of the General Assembly, to demonstrate his disagreement with the statement of President Poroshenko. If that was, a real démarche, it would have been different. In diplomatic practice, sometimes entire delegations leave conference rooms to demonstrate their total disagreement with someone's position or policy. What Ambassador Churkin did, I think, can be described as a hybrid démarche. So, because the delegation stayed in the hall and listened to what the president said, but one person with a certain reputation decided to leave the room. I would not take it as a big signal or as a serious message to either international community or Ukraine.
During the address, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko also said that the meeting that is going to happen between the U.S. president and the Russian president this week, that they should decide on the implementation of a deal to end the war in East Ukraine. Now, how likely do you think of a concrete solution happening during these talks?
We do have hopes for the coming weeks. And the UN General Assembly as a big platform for meetings, agreements, and also the meeting in the format of a Normandy summit scheduled for the 2nd of October in Paris. They inspire us that the solution is possible. We did our best. We implemented Minsk agreements in good faith, and we expect the same to be done by Russian Federation. So what we expect from a meeting between President Obama and President Putin is a clear signal coming from the American side that Russia must implement Minsk agreements and must make its proteges, its puppets in the region, in Donbass, in Donetsk and Lugansk, do the same. Given very consistent position of Washington on the Russian aggression against Ukraine, I have no doubts that this message will be delivered, and President Putin will have to hear it and say something in return, which I'm sure will identify for the American position and stance on the crisis.
In Ukraine, the pro-Russian factions in the Donbass region had been raising the issue that their attempt to hold their own elections earlier was a violation of the agreement. The Putin-Obama meeting on September 28 resulted in parallel discussions, and the Normandy format talks on October 2 decided that elections in the Donbass region would be postponed.
This is a very fragile ceasefire. Once again, if we go back to the Minsk deal, we are ready to hold free and fair elections in Donetsk and Lugansk. But these elections are to meet all ODIHR or OSCE criteria and Ukrainian legislation. And the best way to hold free and fair elections is just to withdraw Russians and to pull back all Russian forces, because we can't get any kind of free and fair elections under the barrel of Russian gun. So the ceasefire is not the implementation of the Minsk deal. The ceasefire is just the precondition for full implementation of the Minsk deal.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have a historic opportunity to be remembered as the rada that finally and permanently laid in place the pillars of freedom that your people have longed for, yearned for so many years. I need not tell you, this is a joint responsibility. The President, the Prime Minister, the members of this august body, all of you must put aside parochial differences and make real the revolution of dignity. The whole world is watching you. That's a fact. They're watching you because their hopes for your success as you fight both the unrelenting aggression of the Kremlin and the cancer of corruption will impact on them. It is no exaggeration to say that the hopes of freedom-loving people the world over are with you, because so much rides on your fragile experiment with democracy succeeding. It's equally important, by the way, for aggressors around the world to understand that they can't use coercion, bribery, sending tanks and men across a border to extinguish the dreams and hopes of a people. Let me be crystal clear. The United States does not, will not, never will recognize Russia's attempt to annex to Crimea. It's that sane, that simple. And Europe now stand together, united in our commitment to impose tough economic sanctions on Russia. And while Russian aggression persists, the cost imposed on Moscow will continue to rise. The United States and Europe will maintain pressure until Moscow fulfills its commitments under the Minsk Agreement. While there has been some progress in de-escalating the violence, there can be no sanctions release unless and until Russia meets all of its commitments under the Minsk Agreement. The United States is with you in this fight. We understand we're with you afar. It's much harder for you than it is for us. We've stepped up with official assistance to help backstop the Ukrainian economy. We've rallied the international community to commit a total of $25 billion in bilateral and multilateral financing to support Ukraine. It includes $2 billion in U.S. loan guarantees and the possibility of more. Yesterday, I announced almost $190 million in new American assistance to help Ukraine fight corruption, strengthen the rule of law, implement critical reforms, bolster civil society, advance energy security. That brings our total of direct aid to almost $760 million in direct assistance in addition to loan guarantees since this crisis broke out. And that is not the end of what we're prepared to do if you keep moving. Please, for the sake of the rest of us, selfishly on my part, don't waste it. Seize the opportunity. Build a better future for the people of Ukraine. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you today. May God bless our two great nations, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
In this way, the Donbass conflict continued.